Hi, I'm Scott Burkett, aka the Command Private Major, and this is the first installment of the Booze Briefing. This is where I get to answer your dumbass questions that you've submitted to me about my books, Joe's The Cold War Diaries, Volume 1 and 2, with Volume 3 that's on the way. Before I get into it too much, I want to give a shout out to Travis Davis, the author of War on the Porch, 1 of 4, some other stuff. If you're into historical military stuff, historical military fiction, check him out. He does a segment called Book and a Beer, or Beer and a Book, depending upon how many beers he's had. He can kind of switch those around. But what he does is he reviews books that people send him and other authors. He's reviewed Joe's as well. And he shares a beer that he's drinking at the time and gives you kind of a little review on it. It's really cool stuff. Check him out, Travis Davis online. He was stationed in 3rd Battalion, 64th Armor with me in the late 1980s in Schweinfurt, Germany. So just a little shout out there for a little inspiration from a fellow Marn dog. But the whiskey that I'll be drinking today is a bourbon. This is Bob Dylan's Heaven's Door. And this is the Revival blend, Tennessee Straight Bourbon Whiskey. 92 proof. It's so far, as you can tell, I'm quite enjoying it. It's good stuff. And shout out to Jerry Witt, another fellow veteran who was on a Black Hawk helicopter crew back in the same time frame. And he's the one that turned me on to this. And yeah, it's quite nice. But at any rate, if you're not familiar with the books, this is perfect. This is perfect. I think most of the people who will initially watch these videos are probably readers of Joe's, okay? So this one's not going to be really that much fun for you. But the two questions I get a lot when people find out, oh, you're a writer or you wrote, a book or books, is, what are the books about? And why'd you write it? Why'd you decide to write a book or books? And in this case, I wish I had a interesting, funny story to tell, but I don't. I started writing, which actually later became the first chapter of Joe's Volume 1. I wrote sort of this like essay type thing, and it was called The War That Never Was. And what it was basically about was the Cold War, what the world was like in the, building up to the 1980s. And, my story of being in the service, why I joined, how that went and everything else. And I wrote it for my 2 young daughters. So one day, they'd kind of have a little bit of flavor about, my time in the service. And I posted that online in a couple of places and got some feedback. Everybody thought it was great. And one of my buddies, later became 2 or 3 of my buddies, said, hey, what if you wrote a book that had all the funny shit that we used to do, like all the crazy stories and the shit from back in the day? I'm like, oh man, I don't know. Is it, is the statute of limitations up? Can we do that, man? Because we did some pretty crazy stuff. They're like, yeah. Okay, fine. So I did. And that became Joe's Volume 1 and Joe's Volume 2. So sans the first chapter in Volume 1, these are basically collections of funny anecdotes, stories, really stories, not so much anecdotes, about what happens when you take 18 to 22-year-old young men at the time. There were no women in combat units at that time. There were women in the military, but not in combat units. Throw them overseas where there's no drinking age, give them a little bit of money, and put them on the border of a communist nation. And, it's like the ultimate biology lab experiment, right? You just throw a bunch of stuff in the Petri dish and see what happens. Well, it got crazy. It really got crazy. So that's what the books are about. If you're a veteran, certainly of that era, and you were stationed in Germany, I think you'll like it. I really do. At least that's my hope. I've heard from a lot of veterans who were in later, after that era was up. And the question they send me all the time is, all right, it's funny. It's funny stuff, but you guys really didn't do all that stuff. No, we did. We did. So check them out, Joe's The Cold War Diaries. And that's about all the fucking wisdom I've got today. So I'm going to sit here and drink my Heaven's Door. That's good stuff. And, yeah, you can fuck off. Later.
Dismissed.